hour and 20 minutes, and I got to be off. So I am going to start.
Okay,
recording.
you can start while we're doing it. I won't mind. I'll just ignore the table shaking and the moaning.
We're live.
So,
All right, I am recording.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the
Why
American
relate to
Greed
its
Factory.
sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Great show this week. Lots of cool stuff going on everywhere and nowhere. Let's see. What's new in the world this week?
Too much.
Well, of course, my thing locked up. Nope, I don't need to.
We don't have enough domestic child supply or children's supply.
Oh yeah, we're going full Handmaid's Tale now. In Super America, with the Supreme Court deciding they're going to get rid of abortion, or maybe, I don't know. I mean, who was shocked by that? Like when I heard that, it's like everyone's upset. They're thinking about this. Is like, yeah, that's why they've been packing the fucking courts with conservatives for the last 20 years. Because they think somehow if they appeal to that dying religious right in this country, that it's like, oh yeah, we're going to come out ahead. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like I heard it and I'm like, yeah, this is how stupid America is now. I don't know who this is. This is not putting food on anyone's table. This is not making anyone's life better. But, you know, it's also what the far right wants.
Do you think this will make the inevitable Democratic bloodbath in the midterm elections less? Or do you think this changes things?
I mean, I honestly don't know. I don't understand, like, if this was a strategic leak by someone.
Well, that's what I thought was, because it seemed like
Yeah.
they're angry that it happens. Like, the leaks never come out of SCOTUS.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, but I mean, I don't think anything is going to draw oxygen away from the raging inferno that is our economy for the midterms. Not even this, because you know, I don't. It's one of those things. It's like I try to think, like, who does this affect? Like extremely poor people, which is the usual victims of any Republican policy, and it makes like people who still follow religion close happy. I don't know who else this appeals to or why.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if this would work in their favor if this is like, look, we're appealing to our base, and look, we got some work done, or because it seemed like the base they're like adhering to is like they're more scared of what Democrats will do rather than what Republicans do at all. Like,
yeah,
you tell them that, like, the Democrats are going to take their gun away. It's like, here's my vote, sir.
Yeah, it seems like what was I going to say? It's like, because essentially, like the hardcore right is losing the culture wars, you know, as they exist in this country. So this seems like a you know, a Shiloh or Bull Run where they can say, here's one for the Confederacy. We won this one. You know, We're losing everywhere else. We don't have TV. We can't have our websites, you know, where we put like Nazi memes up or whatever, but we can have this. And it's like in a country where like no one's having kids anymore, except like really poor people that don't know any better. So it's like, yeah, no abortion. Okay. Now, if they start going after birth control and things like that, then that'll get weird. Like that'll become a problem. But
well, that's what somebody said. Like that's what the Alito opinion piece like essentially says that like the other precedents that aren't law. I forget what it's called, but yeah, they're saying all the things that they could come after, and that's one of them is like, yeah, make birth control a state's problem. It's like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to lead to. I mean, it could potentially, depending on who's not using birth control and what the socioeconomic level, it could just lead to this tsunami of unwanted children that.
Yeah.
Like they're just going to be roaming feral in the woods because the Republicans are not going to do anything to help people care for these unwanted children. They're going to cut those programs too. So it's like, I don't know what this seems like some just weird thing that these two parties are going to fight about to show that they're doing something because they're not doing anything for anyone because they're just in the pockets of the rich. So, I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems to me, thinking of the world and how it exists, this is like a giant step back. Like this makes us more like some theocratic republic than it does like a world-winning nation.
Yeah.
But for some people, it's like a real emotional issue. Not for me, because I made sure I can't have kids anymore. I went and had surgery like a man. So I had the kid I wanted, and that's it. I don't need to have 9 more to prove anything to anyone. What does that prove? My dick works? I mean, I don't know who this is for. So, I can only speculate as to what it is. But yeah, it's a giant step back. It's terrible for America. It's terrible for poor people. It's terrible for taxpayers. But it's like, well, okay, this is your hill you want to fight on. I've never had an abortion or been with someone who had an abortion. I don't know. It's not something that's like near and dear to me, but I still think it's something like tangentially, yes, this should be available. It would be nice if it didn't have to happen because you are murdering something. You're killing something. There's no argument about that. There's all the clump of cells shit and all that. It's like, okay, 't but it would be nice if we never got to that point. But for a lot of people.
I mean, if we lived in Star Trek Utopia, like you could be like that, but we don't. We live in an awful world. So.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's like, yeah, it doesn't affect me personally. I'm not like emotionally invested in it, but I also don't think women should be like vassals to their bodies, and the mammalian reproduction is the most holy thing that happens. It's like, okay, you guys are weird. So to me, this seems like something that's important. Having it banned is something important to such a narrow subset of our society anymore. Or at least to me, it seems that way. I don't know very many very religious people who this is like a keystone issue for. So, or at least they don't talk to me about it. I wonder why. But, yeah, it's a great step back for America as a modern country. This is like third world hocus pocus superstitious religious bullshit. That's what it seems to be based on. It's not based on like, oh, abortions are really, expensive and they're ruining our economy or something. It's like, no, we're not hearing any argument like that. It's just like, well, this is what Sky God says we shouldn't do. It's like, oh, great, cool. I'm glad you're a Supreme Court justice. Glad it's so important to you. So I'll be sending the kids to your house to raise because, it'll be Lord of the Flies out here, or nothing will happen and it'll be fought out at a state level. And I mean, again, I can't change it. I can't do it. You know who I vote for. I don't, it's not a secret. I don't vote for the people that do this kind of stuff. So it's like, well, I guess I'm done. Because my senator, my congresswoman, everyone else, I just, basically pulled a straight Democratic ticket the last time, and they're still doing it. And the Democrats control the executive, the House, and the Senate, and it's still happening. So, okay. Now, I did get a bunch of emails about the Democratic Party needs me to give them money so they can fight Roe in the midterms. It's like, okay. And I'm not bullshitting on that. I can show you the emails. Like, they haven't asked me for money for years. So it's like, is this a big get out the vote drive for the Democrats? Is Alito like a double agent?
Well, should we implement the impossible pivot of what we're going to talk about next?
Yeah, let's go from this to that. Because like I said, I don't have much to say. I think it's stupid. It's just like, it's more dumb shit culture.
I only
war.
vaguely brought it up because I recently saw that, just the weird phrase about referring to unwanted children as domestic children supply.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was that was one of the one lady justice that's from Notre Dame. That's what she was referring to children as, like why we need to ban abortions, because there needs to be a more domestic children supply for people that want to adopt children.
Okay. Sure. Again, supply. So that's how she's saying it. She's not like just coming out and straight up saying we don't have enough white babies being born, because that's really like there's a lot of this baked into that too.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't come out and say it in that vulgar way, but you know what? You just read between the lines. No one's Zeke heiling about this, but you know what they're, you know what the mindset is. And if you're doing it just based on your fucking religion, then I don't know what to tell you. It's like, yeah, great, cool. What else are you doing to follow? Are you following Levitical law too? Why isn't your face covered? Why don't you have a beard? You're putting cotton and another cloth together? You should be stoned to death. It's like, how much crap are you going to believe in? The biggest propagators of that in the world are actually a cult of child molesters. Like, truly, not QAnon made up Tom Hanks is like a child molester, but I mean like actual proven army of pedophiles are the biggest ones that propagate that life is important. It's like, I wonder why you think you want a lot of kids born. Is that part of this domestic supply chain, maybe for other purposes beyond adoption? I mean, I can get real cynical and evil about it, but at the end of the day, it's stupid culture worship. So what were we going to pivot to?
I mean, in the notes it's F1, but we can go to anything.
Oh,
I got some Star Wars show and tell I can show off.
From abortion to F1.
All right, you get Star Wars, yeah.
Or Star Wars.
Lightning fast topic changes.
Got 5 minutes to make your point.
Thankfully, we aborted the last topic, and now we're on to this one.
We got a Shores Trooper from Mandalorian. This is sort of a Target exclusive because it's kind of carbonized or whatever.
Okay.
So it's just another Stormtrooper. We got a Rogue One Jeddah Stormtrooper.
Okay. Not the one with, the orange armband or whatever, or epaulette or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Paula? I can't remember. Got a Fennec Shan from the Book of Boba Fett. It's a pretty good model of her.
I haven't seen a character of her. She's the one I like the most, even though she's like half a droid now.
We got Migs Mayfield. This is the Bill Burr character from The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Does his helmet come off and it looks like Bill Burr?
Yes, it does.
Oh, cool. Great. I'll need a little Bill Burr in your life.
And I think this is from a comic book, maybe. This is Darth Raven, or maybe this is from one of the Knights of the Old Republic. I'm not sure. But...
Yeah, don't recognize that one. It looks cool.
Yeah. All right, now F1. Oop, hold on. How do I go back to... Yeah, we had a race in Imola, which is in Italy, but it's not the Italian Grand Prix because that's reserved for Monza. It was a pretty good race weekend because they had this had a sprint race in it, and it rained. It rained for qualifying and it rained for the race, so that made things pretty interesting.
Yes, I call this the Italian water park race. They were really throwing water.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts. Like, it was like a sheet of water. If you were behind those guys, I don't know how they could see.
They can't.
Oh, okay, good. So,
not like when it's rainy like that. There are backlights that come on when they're harvesting because they're not brake lights. But they do say when they're slowing or not going as fast. But like when it's rainy out, those will just constantly blink, so you can vaguely recognize them through the spray. But like Lando Norris, I've heard him talk about like on his YouTube channels or whatever. He's like doing a review of a race and like. See me there? It's like I can't see anything. I'm just hoping the guy in front of me doesn't brake too hard.
yeah. Oh, it is as nuts as it looks, though.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's even. Yeah. He said it's the most terrifying thing he's ever experienced, and he's driving 200 miles an hour. So.
Now, was there a delay of that before because of the rain, or did they just start on time? Because I just watched the race just as a whole race hours later, so I didn't.
No, I don't think there was a delay because
Okay.
by the time they started the race, that like there wasn't any pools of water, which that's usually like when they delay a race.
Yeah.
But it's also like the funny thing is like the best way to clear the track of rain is just to let those cars race because they will, because the heat they give off, how much water those tires can displace is a lot. So yeah,
Oh yeah, obviously.
Nothing's better than clearing the track than a race car.
I hadn't
Especially-
seen an F1 race that bad in a long time. Because they were really like, it must have been cool there too, because
yeah.
like it's temperature wise, because they were really throwing off curtains of water.
Yeah. This is also just like it's a smaller track compared to like other racetracks. This is kind of a historical track, so they don't go to a lot. But around the pandemic, they went back here because they had just like all the races were in Europe.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they brought it back. It's hard to pass, but there's it's still kind of a neat track, and it seemed like a track you wouldn't have for a sprint weekend because there's not a lot of passing going on, but because they qualified in the rain and you had crazy stuff. You had Sainz crashing out and starting in 10th, and then you had Magnussen up in 4th place. So for Haas, and that was like kind of out of nowhere. But then they start the sprint race, and this is kind of like what people argue against the sprint race is because what happens is like Carlos Sainz works his way up from the back, and so does Sergio Perez, who's also out of place, and they just work their way to the front, and everybody's back to the order that would be happen normally. So that's kind of like the thought against the sprint race. But then you get to the weekend, you get to the race on Sunday, and it's raining again. And then and Aston Martin had a good weekend because they got both cars in the points.
Yeah.
And being how bad those cars are, so they made a lot of improvements. So good, yeah, good for them. He had Ferrari trying too hard because once again, Carlos Sainz beaches his car, although he got hit by Daniel Ricciardo, so it wasn't his fault, but once again, beached his car in the gravel.
And like what, the first 15 laps?
No, it was the first lap.
Oh, it was the first lap. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the first lap. Yeah, and in Australia, he got beached on the 3rd lap, I think, so...
And that's like Ferrari country there, right?
Yeah, that's Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they had a big plant near a facility near that racetrack.
AlphaTauri, who is an Italian team, their plant is like right next to the track.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a Ferrari. Okay.
I think it was AlphaTauri, or was it Alfa Romeo? I can't remember. Because if it was Alfa Romeo, no, it was AlphaTauri. Anyways. Because AlphaTauri didn't really have a great weekend. Although, if you watch the onboards of Yuki Tsunoda, he had a fucking crazy race. He should have died like 3 times. Because he was like almost put into a wall at the start of the race, and then he was like driving on the grass that's wet. It's like everything bad should have happened to him, but somehow he kept that shit together. So,
I remember him driving on the grass wet. I was like, oh, he's going to spin any second.
yeah.
No way. That car has 0 traction, 0 braking. But now he just went back on the track.
Yeah. So yeah, I forget where he finished, but he did a pretty good job. He finished ahead of Gasly. Although the whole race, there's what they call a DRS train. So it's basically when a bunch of cars are close together and they all have DRS available, and basically nobody can pass anybody because they have the same amount of speed.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, I believe it was for 40 laps. It was Alex Albon, who was followed by Pierre Gasly, who was followed by Lewis Hamilton in like 11th, 12th, and 13th place. And nobody could pass anybody for 40 laps.
Yuki Tsunoda finished 7th.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good for
Yeah. I mean, Haas Ferrari placed 9th.
Yeah, they got a point out of the sprint race, and then they got 2 points out of the main race, which would seem bad for how like good their car is this year, but for Haas compared to last year, like that's a godsend. Any points a winning weekend. So
I'm surprised they didn't have their own podium where they were just hosing the guy down. Campaign.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher actually he made up a couple places in the sprint race, but then in the main race, he went off track and kind of like fishtailed back onto the track, and he hit the side of Fernando Alonso's car, and then like 3 laps later, the whole side of his car just ripped off.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular.
And it was funny because he's like on the radio and he's like pulling in to retire the car, and so the radio is like a bit delayed from when it actually happened. He's like, "Can I still drive?" They're like, "No." I mean, technically yes, but we're not going to race with a giant hole in the car.
Yeah, because he was talking to his pit guy. Is it bad? Is it bad? He's like, oh, bad. Yeah. Because he did ask. He's like, can I still race? And there was like a delay. Like the guy was talking to somebody. They're like, no, he can't race.
And then Max Verstappen took the lead at some point, and then I think through the pits and the strategy, Perez got ahead of Leclerc. And so Leclerc was trying to make up things, and he was trying too hard, and he was in 3rd place, and he like slid off the track and kind of bumped into the wall. I think he ended up finishing like 6th.
Yeah.
I think he went all the way down to like 11th place and like crawled his way back up to 6th in like 6 laps. But yeah, he threw away that 3rd place. So yeah, that wasn't the greatest weekend for Ferrari, but he did get like 6 points in the sprint race, and so he still got a haul of points. But Max Verstappen got the maximum amount of points that he got 8 points in the sprint. He got 25 in the main race, and he got an extra point for fastest lap. So he got all the points you could possibly get in a race, and so he's back in the championship.
And then Ocon got a 5-second penalty for what? Unsafe start from the pit?
Oh, unsafe release.
Okay.
He bumped into Hamilton in the pit lane.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So,
Wow.
So yeah, they gave him a 5-second penalty, which I think he was in like 9th, and it threw him all the way back to like 15th place or something like that.
Yeah. He finished 14th.
But that was because of the penalty, so he would have been like ahead of like all those people. Bottas did like really great in this race. He like had a bad start. I think he ended up in like 5th, but he was like all pretty close to passing Russell at the end there. But yeah, his car was like super fast, like way more than everybody else's. So I was very impressed with Bottas that weekend. So expect things out of him.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a better race weekend than the main race, but it was fine. Yeah. And then we had the Miami GP this weekend or tomorrow. We had the qualifying today. It's a new track, so that's kind of interesting. When I heard people talk about it, they said that they're racing around the Hard Rock Cafe. I completely messed up on the scale because I thought that made like, oh, they're racing around a restaurant. It's like, no, they're racing around the Dolphin Stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a camera shot, like a drone shot they were pulling out.
And like some people are comparing it to the Las Vegas race in like the 70s, where it was like in the Caesar Palace parking lot. And so I mean, it's literally in a parking lot, but they're doing a lot more to like make it seem like it's not a parking lot. They're doing a lot. They even built a fake marina with fake water. That's kind of fun. It's become the meme of the weekend. The fake water and the boats just sitting in a parking lot. Which there's tickets to get on those boats for the race. They're like $1,000 a piece.
Of course.
But yeah, it's pretty. There's kind of a squiggly straight on the front end, and then there's just basically like a runway on the back end, and then there's a lot of complex turns on the east and west side of it. So it's pretty interesting. It's not a Tilka-drome as they call it usually. There's a guy named Herman Tilka. He usually designs a lot of their new races, but this is a different design team, and they've designed it specifically to basically be hard for the drivers. So it's a very technical course. So there was a lot of crashes in practice. Luckily, there's no crashes in qualifying today, but yeah, it's catching a lot of people out. There's one where there's like a half moon turn. That's kind of like you basically come up to like a right hand angle, and then you got to just drive around in like this half circle, and then you got to get back on the track, and it kind of leads out and it straightens out so you can kind of get some speed, but then the next thing there's like an uphill chicane that wiggles all around, that catches people out because people end up taking it way too fast because of how it feels, how fast it should go, but because it's uphill and it's churny, it gives you too much confidence. You make a lot of mistakes there. So turn 14 is like the mistake inducer for this weekend, so look out for that. Also, the pit lane is fucking crazy. The pit lane entry has a chicane in it, which is fucking weird. So
usually those are straight in, straight out.
Yeah, no, they have to like wiggle around and then go into the pit lane. The pit exit is also fucking crazy because it comes out on a turn. And many times the racers almost hit each other this weekend. So that will probably be something in the race.
Yeah, it says 19 turns and 3 zones for like really blast DRS.
Yeah, DRS, yeah. So
they say it's a top speed track in the straightaway, 320 kilometers an hour.
Which is about like, what is that, like 210 or something like that?
Yeah, he's 215. Yeah.
Okay. Also, it's also very hot there, so there's going to be a lot of reliability issues because Max's car was blowing up during practice constantly. So
Heat on the tires or heat on the engines?
Engine.
Oh, okay. How hot is it in Miami now? Like 90?
It was 90, I think 100.
Okay.
The track temp is going to be around 100. So
Yeah.
But yeah. I also saw a W race this weekend because they're the support series for the Miami weekend.
Oh, okay.
There's no other races. Because the weird thing is, like, if you had a bunch of other racing series there, they'd get a lot like rubber down and like it'd make the track better to drive. But apparently the driver's saying like, if you're on the racing line, the track's cool. If you're off the racing line, they might as well just sprayed it down in the water because apparently if you're off the racing line, you're just fucked. So it's probably not going to be a lot of great racing this weekend, but there'll probably be a lot of spectacular accidents.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of expensive vehicle damage.
Yeah, I saw a W Series race. It's not on the F1 app, but I can get it through ESPN.
Okay.
If you don't know what W Series is, it's the women racing series. They race in kind of Formula 3 spec cars, except they don't have DRS on them.
Okay.
They used to have an interesting thing where like the series just had a pool of cars, and just like through a raffle, you got a different car every race.
Interesting.
It's to like basically like to kind of bring forth like who has the best driving talent. It's like if you're driving in a different car, then it's like the talent will stand out more. That's sort of the idea of it. Although it looks like this year they have teams.
Okay.
So that element gets thrown out. So you have the Caitlyn Jenner team this weekend. So, which I don't know. Which I was probably. There's probably too many jokes to be made there. I'm not going to make them, other than, she killed a person in a car.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one thing I like to do is with an F1 is if you don't know anything about F1, they just have fun names. So I'm going to read off the names for the W Series, because these are probably also a bunch of rich European women that have weird names, or probably some sort of royalty in the background. So they have a lot of weird names. I think this is just an alphabetical order, but we have from Czechia, Teresa Babakova.
Okay.
We have from the Philippines, Bianca Bustamante.
Interesting.
We have from England, we have Jamie Chadwick, who is the 2-time champion.
That's a very English sounding name.
Yeah. There's only been two seasons of W Series because in COVID they canceled the series that year. So
okay.
It's actually kind of an indictment that she's the 2-time winner, because it means like nobody picked her up for like F3 or anything like that. So it's not really great. But that's the thing, like in this stuff, is that like talent will only take you so far, but money will take you way farther.
Yeah. It's a sport of kings.
I think we have the only American, Chloe Chambers.
Okay.
We have Emily de House.
Okay.
I think she's like from the Netherlands or something. We have Abby Eaton.
All right.
Who was the one who got the bad wreck at Texas last year and like had her back basically reconstructed.
Oh Jesus! In the car again. Okay.
Yep, back in the car. We have Balin Garcia, and we have Marta Garcia, not related, but both from Spain.
Yeah.
We have Jessica Hawkins, another
American.
Brit.
Brit. Okay. Yeah.
We have Emma Kimmelainen. I think she's Finnish. We have Naria Marti, another Spanish. Sarah Moore. We have Juju Noda, who's Japanese.
Huh.
We have Alice Powell, Brit. Abby Poling, a Brit. And we have Bruno Tomaselli, a Brazilian.
Bruno.
Yes, Bruno.
Huh. Okay.
Not Bruno. Not Bruno. Bruna.
Bruna. Okay, that makes sense. I was going, what?
I probably just said it wrong. It's Bruna Tomaselli. And probably my favorite name. This is 2 words. Bajkavissa. Her first name is Baitska. Her last name is Visser.
Hungarian.
I think she's from the Netherlands.
Netherlands. Okay.
Let me check that real quick. Yeah, she's from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And then Fabian Woland, who I think she's from Liechtenstein.
Okay. Wow. One of the what? How many people live there? 5,000.
So that's the W Series. So yeah, it was the interesting thing about the race is like it's a timed race, so it's 30 minutes plus 1 lap.
Interesting concept. Okay.
So it has a time limit. So once they hit that time limit, they only have 1 lap to race.
Okay.
Which
So it's
kind
just survive and drive, huh?
yeah.
Okay.
Which kind of like the race kind of got snake bit because they had 2 safety cars and they're basically out behind the safety car for like 20 minutes of the race. So after the first safety car, they did red flag it, which stops the timer, and then they brought them back out. And then later on, like towards the end of the race, there was another crash. They had a safety car. The time ran out, and then they pulled the safety car in. They just had 1 lap to finish the race. And it had, who was it? They had, I can't, not pulling her name. Oh, Emma Kimmelainen. She was in first. She made a pass like just for that wreck happened over Jamie Chadwick. And then when they started the race again, it seemed like Jamie Chadwick had her tires like in the correct spot, and then like Kimmelainen just like took a corner too fast, like trying too hard, and like her car just went off, and then she got past it. So Jamie Chadwick, the 2-time champion, got another win. So
Okay.
and then Kimmelainen got hit by one of the Garcias. So Marta Garcia got second, and then Hawkins, she got third, and that was her first podium, which she's kind of interesting because she was in other race series, but then she just didn't get any more money to keep racing, so she went to go be a stunt driver in the Fast and Furious movies and also on the latest James Bond movie. So, but now she's back to racing. She got a podium, so that's
good.
So that's a sport race thing. All right, so yeah, that's all my racing F1 talk.
All right.
Andrew, you want to talk about Moon Knight, or did everybody see the last episode?
I have seen 4 episodes of Moon Knight. And
okay.
My last 2 but go ahead and talk about it. My last 2 weekends I've had no time to consume any entertainment. So.
Okay.
No, it's okay. We can talk about it when you've watched it all.
All right. Well, I can talk about Ghosts. Anybody heard about Ghost?
No, what is
the
that?
BBC version? It's just it's a ghost comedy, of course. I heard it was on one of the red letter medias, like Mike was talking about it. Although he was saying that he said watch the BBC one, the American one is shit. Which the American one, the first couple episodes I'd say aren't the best because it kind of seems like they're playing to a laugh track that isn't there. But I feel like they figure it out later on. So the American one's fine.
Okay.
Also, like the husband character, I think is like annoying for the first 3 episodes, and now he's like my favorite character because he just has all the best lines. Also, like the major difference, like the BBC one just has a better cast in general.
Yeah.
So, essentially, there's a lady inherits a house where like the last kind of like off kilter relative dies, and they have this giant like mansion, and so they're left the house. They're not really left money. They're just kind of left the house, and the house is kind of dilapidated. So they're going to try to fix it up and make it into like a bed and breakfast. In the midst of like fixing up the house, the lady falls out of the window and like conks her head and like dies for a second or whatever. And so when she comes back to the house, she now sees all the ghosts that are there. And it's sort of just like and it's not exactly like the funny. It's more sardonic. British humor. It's more
not
about
laugh out loud funny. It's
more about the absurdity of the situation rather than like this is a great like setup and knock him, punchline and setup and punchline kind of humor. But you have a ghost. You have a caveman who can slightly control the lights. He can make them dim because there's a part where they try to haunt them to get them out of the house. But like all their powers are kind of like stupid.
Okay.
You have like a British PM who's like doesn't have any pants because he like died having sex with somebody that he wasn't supposed to. And so he can like kind of move a cup. He's better at moving cups, but he can just kind of push things, but it like takes all the effort in the world to do it. What are they? Oh, there's like one lady. She was like sort of like a like Black Death era lady who was like burned at the stake.
Oh, okay.
So when people like walk through her, they can like smell smoke, and that's like her kind of power. You have the people in the basement, like in the American one, they said they all died of cholera. So I think it's probably they're just like these cholera zombies in the basement. They're not there, but they don't really focus them on too much. But they're kind of fun in the beginning because like the only thing they can focus on is like they know how to make this really old boiler work. And so like through talking with her and her communicating with her husband, they're able to get the boiler working without like blowing up the house.
Oh, okay.
And that's how she proves that she can talk to ghosts, because she wouldn't know how to put this boiler together. So
that's interesting. Yeah. Proof that out that way.
And yeah, so it's just an interesting development. It's like, well, how can you use like ghosts to your advantage, and like what's their internal lives? Because the actually opening is you see this lady, she dies, her spirit kind of raises from her body, and then she just shoots off into heaven or whatever, and it's like, oh, I guess they're gone. So it seemed like the objective of the series is like to figure out all the ghost past so they can get resolution and go off to the afterlife.
Oh,
but they really never do that.
Yeah.
Like in the British one, the British one's on HBO Max. There's 3 seasons, but they're only 6 episodes apiece. Which is also interesting because you compare it to the American one, which has 1 season and already has 18 episodes. Which reminds me of the funny thing about the British Office. Like, do you know that the British people don't give a fuck about the British Office?
Yeah. Ricky Gervais explained that once on a podcast. He said about that. Like half the people I meet think it's an American show.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's several British podcasts I listen to, and all their references, when they reference something about The Office, it's the American Office they're referencing, and they're British, and they don't give a shit about the British version of The Office, because there's just way more of the episodes of the American version of The Office.
Yeah, I think the British Office, I have like the complete set, and it's on like 1 disc, like for the whole, Which the American Office is better. The British Office is good at being really dark.
Yeah.
Like immediate, sad, dark, whereas the American Office is also that, but it's a little there's a lot more character development. Because the British Office was just like mainly centered around Ricky Gervais and his character and his sidekick, and they did have other characters, but yeah, these guys were and it was a lot harsher too. The American office is actually fun, where the British office is like, oh, all these people are sad
Yeah.
and they're never going to get out of sad. Same thing happens in the American office, but at least they're like, well, they have maybe they can get out of sad, but they never.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the British version of Ghost, the other characters, yeah, you have like a World War II guy, some guy who died in World War II, so he's all like, you know, always trying to keep things in order, even though they can't really affect anything. He's also like secretly gay and can't admit it, but everyone's like, you know, it's like, just like, oh, he's gay, right? But there's nobody says it, but it just never comes up. And there might have been an episode, but I don't know. It's this thing, like, even though if that gets resolved, he's not going off to heaven, and not because he's gay. It's just that's not the point of the show.
Yeah,
resolution is not the point of the show.
Yeah, we don't want to send our characters we've developed away to the afterlife.
We have like a sort of a scout guy who has an arrow through his neck. There's some guy who was beheaded, and so he walks around his head with his body walks around, his head's just kind of being kicked around constantly. You have like sort of the lady of the house character who was like thrown to her death, and so like every time the clock strikes a certain time, like her body just appears being thrown out the window and she hits the ground. It's like, oh, it's just like, this again. But in the American one, they have like, instead of a caveman, they have a Viking. They have a Native American who's just kind of more like sardonic and jokey, and sounds more like he's cut from California than like he's than anything else. Although there's a joke and he says like, I was actually at like a costume party and that's why I'm wearing this, and they're like, really? He's like, no. Yeah, they also have like a lady of the house. They have the scout guy with arrows through his neck. They have like a biker with his head cut off, but he hasn't been in like the last 8 episodes, so I wonder if they just got rid of that character. They got the cholera pit zombies down there for the boiler. Yeah, it's also in America, in the American version, obviously. So, and then they have like sort of like a colonial troop, like American revolutionary kind of guy who he's sort of their gay military guy. So yeah, but yeah, it's like, it's not bad, but the British one does have a better cast, but I'd say the American one's probably has funnier jokes. I don't know, there's like a thing that they talk about, like there's a joke that the like more modern ghosts like have, like the older ghosts that have been there for a while, they call when like a spirit comes out of their body and like ascends to whatever, they call that getting sucked off, and then like it's just an inside joke for all the modern ghosts. And you'll just have like
the older ones don't get the connotation.
Yeah,
okay.
no, they it's, and then like the lady that can talk to the ghost is like trying to explain it to him, and they're like, no, that's our joke, don't ruin it for it, because they know it's like, because somebody like leave a room angry and like, I can't wait to get sucked off.
Sucked off.
And also just like, so only she can see the ghost, and so she always is like, and they'll have like weird scenes where like you have the room full of all the ghosts, and then you'll cut to a camera angle where they're not there, and like you can see the perspective of like everybody else, and so there's like kind of clever things they do with that. So the American Ghost is on Paramount Plus. So
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. I did watch like the first 4 episodes of Beforeigners.
oh, yeah. What'd you think of that?
It's weirdly funny and self-serious at the same time,
Yeah.
but also just goofy. It's like there's a lot of things going on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a fish out of water comedy, but it's also like this like serious murder investigation.
Yeah, because it's like and it's funny things about these people coming from another time and living here, and some of the people adapt readily, and because you got like prehistoric men, Vikings, and then people from like the 18th century or something.
Yeah.
And but all the 18th century people are either real sincere, earnest, who speak in a kind of a stilted, old-fashioned way, or they're violent criminals. And then the Vikings are just what you would expect. Of course, you're not supposed to call them that because what they say, we don't use the V word.
Yeah.
Because that discriminates. And then
yeah, they have all kinds of names because they're like Beforeigners. There's like the chronologically displaced. They have like all these different names for like somebody who's come from the past.
yeah, and then there's stuff going on with people trying to go back to the past. It's something about when the gates open because one girl like who was from modern times, like they were doing a prank.
Yeah.
But she's got like all the messed up teeth and medical problems of someone from the past, but she never was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's sort of interesting. Some of the comedic stuff I miss, I think, because where's that show from? Like
Norway.
So yeah, I think their humor is a little more like things that would seem funny to them maybe just don't translate. It's like, oh, it's odd.
Are you watching it dubbed or with subtitles?
I watch it with subtitles.
Okay.
Sometimes that dubbing, like, because it was engaging when I start watching something that's dubbed. I'm like, wait a minute, why is their mouth still? Oh yeah, they're talking. And also, I think sometimes the dubbing sucks because it's like that's not really what they said. Like,
yeah, I just listened to the dubbing. Then one time, there's like a few scenes where they do it in English, and it's just the dubbing continues as the guy who dubs in English. And if you watch it with subtitles, it's funny because like that guy has a completely different voice, and he's doing it in English, and he's like, yeah, he's not the greatest English speaker, but it's kind of stilted, but it's weird. Because at some point I was thinking like, did they just get the act? I'm like, I'm pretty sure all these actors probably has English as a second language, so did they just bring him in the booth to dub themselves? And like, no, they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the kids on that played on Grayson's football team was the kicker was from Norway. He was an exchange student.
Yeah.
And of course he was like 6'9" and but he wasn't a football, like he played soccer, like he was an athletic guy, but he wasn't like American tackle foot. So they just put him on as a kicker. It's like, yeah, we're not going to be responsible for you breaking every bone in your body. But yeah, Grayson and him talked a lot. And he was always like, how do you speak English so naturally? Because no one else in the world speaks Norwegian. He's like, oh, okay. I get that now. He's like, yeah, they teach us that. They start us that in school, like when we're in kindergarten. It's like, oh yeah, I guess that would be. And then you find out about how they spell words and put words together in Norwegian, and it's like, oh, why do you have 50 more characters for the same thing? Because those are those ancient languages that have been around forever. It's not as weird as Icelandic, but it's pretty strange. So yeah, but overall, it's a good show. I don't know if it's trying to be serious or not, because some of the stuff is
it's kind of doing everything. So
yeah, some of the stuff's kind of goofy. Then some of it's like really dark and like menacing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like all the comedy is like situational, like kind of fish out of water comedy.
Yeah,
where it's like she does strange things because she's just not from this time, or doesn't really have shame the way other modern people do. So that's where the
no shame at all. But she's trying to fit in also.
Yeah.
And then there's people that are just wildly prejudiced against these people, like some of the cops she works with, like the one lady who facilitates things. Because
that's what I thought was like genius of the show, because you essentially have the time immigrants is the other like phrase they use. Is like you have these people that are kind of acting as immigrants, but they're the same people just from a different time, and so like them being like hating on the immigrants even though they're essentially the same people is kind of a fun dichotomy. So.
Well, like the they do a lot of the stuff with the Vikings and the people from the 18th century or whatever. But then they also have like the cavemen, and they do some things with them. But like these people are just like in parks around fire pits all night.
Yeah.
Like they're not living in houses, or they don't want to. Some of them do, but then they all develop like drug problems and alcohol problems. And
yeah, there's a weird thing with the time drug that they made.
Yeah, I haven't quite wrapped my head around what that's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's like temporal realignment drugs. So But yeah, it's sort of
it gets even weirder in the second season, but it's still good.
yeah. I just watched 4 episodes one day, so it was interesting. It's a new concept.
And then last weekend, me and Andrew played a board game.
Okay.
We played Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Core.
Oh, how was that?
It was pretty good. I saw a review and they referred to it as like a dungeon crawler, but basically you have a bunch of characters and you have to try to complete a mission. So we did the first mission where you have to get Newt and get out alive, but it's very hard because like there's pretty much like it's very easy to get overwhelmed and killed in the game. Even though we only lost one person who we sacrificed to the aliens. Yeah,
to be fair, we helped her out many times, and
Yeah.
she still.
Yeah, she basically got hit the most. She got knocked down, but she had a flamethrower, so she could like take out a stack of aliens. So, there's like there's these cards you pull out. Like when there's an alien turn, you have like the cards. It's the motion tracker cards. And you pull it and you pull it up and you basically see like how many aliens are going to pop out of all these different places. Which by the end of the game, we basically used all the motion tracker cards and we had so many aliens coming at us that we had to like depict the aliens with all this different dyes and stuff we had. Which I think that's something like I heard them talking about in the review. It's like, I think we could have interpreted that like if there aren't enough alien tokens to what they suggest, then we just shouldn't use that many alien tokens. Like they're out of aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to get more eggs.
We brought Gorman on the mission. He's like the cowardly captain that was in the APC and won't go like that Ripley has to like get in front of and like just drive the APC into the area so they can get him out. So we have him redeem himself by sending him off on a suicide mission to get to the control center to like unveil these things so we can find out where Newt is and then block off all these doors. Although Gorman ends up, everybody survived except for Diedrich, who she got captured by the aliens, and there's like a mission pack where you can like go save her if you want. So,
Which, why would we do that? We barely got out with only losing Dietrich.
Yeah.
Come on.
So we just did the one mission. It does take a while to set up and get through everything, but
To be fair, it's been a while since I played, so me talking everybody through everything wasn't good.
Well, at least you find out you have like several pieces you're missing now. So, well, I think just 2 or 1, but
yeah, it was like one main piece, yeah, but still frustrating.
And I picked Al Pone because he was the highest enlisted guy. So,
Okay.
which he gave you have like each person has their own character, which they basically get. There's like 2 sides of a character card. There's a character side, like a grunt side, and your grunt side it's just like we work together, but like all the grunts just kind of have like less stats than like your main characters.
Okay.
But like what Al Pone did is he gave everybody like less, like they could use everything. They could use their equipment for less cost. Because you have like this you have this pile of cards that you pick from that will be like either equipment or different things or be a bad card. We got like who's the one guy the
Burke.
Yeah, Burke. Yeah, he picked one of his cards and it like fucked us because like spawned alien at every spot. And it's funny if you look at his character card, like even having him on like a mission, he just like his purpose is to fuck you over, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, this game has some kind of.
Oh, the mad about you guy fucked us again.
So it's like, yeah, it's kind of fun storytelling stuff that you can do with this. Where yeah, it's kind of like, all right, Gorman, go off to die, and then he doesn't die. But also like these cards you draw from, they also act as like if you use like a pulse rifle or the flamethrower or whatever, you have to like exhaust these cards, and so that sort of like represents your ammo. And so if you run out of ammo, then you lose the game essentially. But there's ways you can get the ammo back. So.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm looking at the game right now. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not into models, it's kind of a bummer because they don't come pre-assembled. You have to assemble them yourself. So,
nice.
if you're into models, then you get to assemble them yourself. So, did you have both expansions or just the one? That was it like the
Well,
badass
one's an expansion, the other one's just kind of like an add-on for like, hey, if you don't want a cardboard token for this, you can have a plastic figure instead.
Oh, okay.
Plus, it just adds like more the other extra characters, like they're in the movie that die. They don't really get any lines. It adds them as well. So just kind of it. I mean, I guess it's kind of an expansion, but it's also not because it doesn't really add more playable missions or anything. It just adds more characters and a few more set pieces.
Well, I saw one's like called like the Get Away from Her Bitch expansion pack, which has the Ripley power loader or power lifter suit. So.
Yep, and that's
did you have that one? Or did you have the other one?
No, I have both.
Oh, okay.
Damn it! What the hell is the
one's just called like something
character?
badass or something like that or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's just the one with extra characters like the plastic eggs and face huggers and stuff that.
But the first mission doesn't have everything that's involved in the game because there's later missions where you can get the sentry guns and they have their own ammo counters and stuff like that. There's eggs and face huggers that show up, and I don't even know what they do because we didn't have to play against them yet.
My guess is not good things.
I always like those sentry guns. That's one of my favorite like deleted scenes in a movie.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been deleted because that scene like really builds tension in an amazing way because you're basically just watching an ammo counter count down and you have some interstitial cut scenes of the aliens getting blown to bits, but really there's not a whole lot going on there. It's just a bunch of guns firing down a corridor, but it really like I've always wanted like a couple of those in front of my house just back and forth. I'm surprised we don't have stuff like that now.
Oh,
there's probably no effective way to identify friends and foes with that kind of technology, but I'm amazed that we don't actually have like sentry guns. Or maybe we do.
No, probably. Oh, yeah, like I said, they just call them drones and they operate them in countries that aren't America.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have like a tort system in sub-Saharan Africa you can subject people to if it accidentally kills someone. And also, you could probably take it out with a rocket pretty easy, too. Because weren't you telling me about the Marines and the dangers of fixed fortifications? Like it's the worst strategy now because any fortification can be destroyed unless it's like a nuclear hardened bunker or something.
Yeah, it's
you never fight from a fixed position anymore.
Yeah, it's better to move than to hold place because you're just. I mean, it's like easy to get cut off and lose supply if you're constantly on the move, but also. I don't know, that's also like, that's with like Desert Storm stuff where it's like the idea is just run at the enemy for 6 days and see if your troops have been up for 6 days falter or if their troops have been up for 6 days falter.
Yeah. Well, really gunpowder ended fixed fortification because that's like castles were amazing strong points where you could control vast territory because you'd have to lay siege to the castle to take it. But then once gunpowder came along, it's like, well, you can't build castle walls big enough, and there'll always be guys digging underneath them. So, or it was trebuchets that did that, but those were time consuming to build, not very accurate, but they were wildly destructive.
Yeah, so we only played one of the board games, so they only get harder. So we only lost one person. So if we wanted to continue the narrative, we'd have to like leave Dietrich behind or whatever. But it doesn't matter. And then Gorman got to redeem himself. It's funny. We just gave him a pistol, and basically he missed every time with the pistol and didn't do anything other than the computer stuff. But somehow he never got caught by an alien.
Yeah.
What was the other thing?
Do they have like synthetics in the game, like Bishop and that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, Bishop is a character for the next one, yeah. But I don't know how because like I told Conley, they add the you get away from you bitch expansion, like you make the boards like 2 times bigger for every mission. So I mean, I think it just adds to it because it makes missions play out longer.
Well, I did see a model with Bishop where he's split in half, so I'm pretty. He's got to be a character.
All right, well, let's pick this up on the other side of this. So call me back.
All right, call you guys back. We're still going out live, just letting you know.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll start talking about Kagemusha or Kagemusha, however you say it. Which I guess that's just Japanese for Shadow Warrior.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Or whatever interpretation that, I was like the direct translations are always kind of weird.
Especially with Japanese, because it seems like there's a lot of meaning packed into some things.
Always like in German, there's the word Nachtschwester, which basically means nurse. But like if you Nacht means night and Schwester means sisters, a nurse is a night sister.
Actually sounds like something the Germans would say. Well, my wife learned in nursing school that nurses started as they were from a religious order before.
Huh.
It was basically nuns and people who volunteered to work, as like an assistant to a physician in a it was in the Middle Ages. But then, like much later, it actually became a career where you have to have a degree and your own level of skill. But
sorry, I don't know why it takes my email so long to give me a fucking email.
Oh, that's okay. I'm going to restart the recording so we can talk about the Alien board game. And we're recording.
So anyway, like I was saying about that pyramid scheme we're trying to sell people on. Always sell, sell, sell. Never take no for an answer. And we're just going to sell people their dreams packaged in the simplest form.
And if you sell enough of them, you get the good leads. And anyone who comes in second gets a set of steak knives.
Oh, I was at Best Buy today looking for something, and I didn't know they sold a knife block with a sharpener built into it now, like an automatic sharpener. It was like a ninja thing. It was like $250 for like this freaking knife block, and I was impressed. I wanted to buy it.
So as far as I know, those sharpener, well, I'm not sure the one you're talking about, but those like kind of built-in sharpeners aren't really the best. But they'll probably work unless you're cooking all the time. But the stuff you want is like the real stuff where you have to like get water on it, the whetstones.
Oh, yeah.
But that also takes a large amount of time. So
And skill. It's a skill-building activity.
because there's like actual sharpening, and then you have like that thing that's called a honing. Is that a honing fork or what do they call it? Just honing knife.
Yeah.
Well, that's just like knocking the blades back into place. It's not actually sharpening it, but it will like cut better after you do a couple passes with it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, those kind of blades on the edge, if you look at them under a magnifier or a microscope, the ideal edge is what they call an apple seed, where it's kind of sharp at the tip, but it kind of has broader, it supports the, not the tip, the edge. It supports the edge more. Because like a razor cut is just like a V. It's like a straight cut, which those will cut really fast, but they'll also go dull very quickly because it doesn't support it as much.
Which is all. Have you ever seen like the Amazon treasure truck? Do you know what that is?
No.
No.
So it used to be a literal truck that would drive around in like big cities, and they'd have like Amazon would have like hot items in it that are like hard to get, and they just drive around. You'd go up to the Amazon treasure truck and buy a hot item. But now it's like a thing that now it's just like basically like a daily sale thing. And they were selling like a Wusthof knife, which those are like the real expensive ones. I mean, I'm sure there's like way more expensive, but those are also kind of commercially expensive ones.
That's what I have.
And it was like $60, and I'm like, huh, that's a pretty good deal. And then I was like looking at the other Wusthof knives, and it's like, oh, this is nothing like those. So
Yeah.
not gonna get it. It's probably like their more affordable version. It probably works just fine, but
I have had a set of Wusthof knives for probably 15 years, and I've had them sharpened once, and I use them every week. They're good. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they were fantastically expensive though. I think it was like maybe $300 for the one knife and maybe $150 for the other. But considering I've got 15 years use out of them, that's worth it. So we watched a movie this week,
which I forgot to watch 2 weeks in a row.
It's plenty of time. Watch the 1980 Kagemusha by Akira Kurosawa, which I've watched 2 iterations of this movie because one I watched by mistake. It's kind of fun. So.
Yeah, because so I forget if I might have explained this last week, but I thought this was on the Criterion Channel because when I looked it up, I think I looked up on Internet Movie Database, and like on the side, this is in the Criterion Collection. And most of his movies are available on the Criterion Channel. This one is not, but there is a Criterion Collection of it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the first color Kurosawa movie that we've seen. Which is based on a real story, vaguely.
Yeah.
About a king, or what do you call him? Daimyo, who dies, and then they have to hide his death for 3 years, and he has one of his doubles impersonates him for 3 years. Which that's more what this movie's about, but you're talking about like the earlier one, like is more body horror, where it's like whatever terrible thing happens to the Daimyo has to happen to all the doubles.
Yep. If he loses an eye, you lose an eye.
Which that doesn't really happen here, but that's
no.
We have oh no, I'm forgetting all their names. I want to say like Shinsuke or something, but I guess I'll look it up.
Takeda Shingen.
Shingen. He's the Daimyo, and then his brother is his double, and then they find some thief that looks like Shingen also. I guess he was going to be crucified, but they saved him from that. He's like, he'll be a good double. Which is, I'm not sure if they really get into it. It seems to be like one side like has rifles and is backed by, I don't know, like the Dutch or the British or something, or the church or something, and then this side is just like your kind of standard like samurai warriors. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if they're samurai at this time. Maybe. Everybody's got swords.
They're definitely operating in that vein.
Yeah. There's one neat part where like the king gets shot, and so they have to pretend like nothing happened. And there's a scene where the guy basically shows how he shot the king, and he was like shot him at night when he's like listening for like some kind of like flute player or something. And he just like set the gun up where he knew like he'd be pointed in the right spot. He couldn't actually see it at night. And there's like this like little weight that comes off the gun, like where he can set it and aim it in the right place.
Yeah, it seemed like a very elaborate sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Like a very what would you call that? Yeah, just like almost a Rube Goldberg sniper rifle.
Yeah.
and he's essentially firing blind into the night, but he hits this guy, and then there's a whole explanation about it.
Which that's what the coolest thing about this movie is, like all the little details that come up.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, this is going on. Which that's what I thought, like, you know, what's up with the guns and the white people on the other side, but I don't get that part. But it's more about like this guy like having to pretend to be the daimyo.
Yeah.
Even have like
Essentially,
weird.
that's like I mean, the thing with the adversaries is like these guys are more like traditional Japan,
Yeah.
and it's outsiders and collaborators that are ruining this like sacred, wonderful thing. You know, where everyone's just a brutal dictator.
Yeah.
It's like, this is good. We're gonna miss this when this is gone. It's like, are you? Doesn't seem too nice, but
Well, there's interesting. They take Shinjin out like in a box, like somewhere up on the hills where he can die.
yeah,
and he like has like one last gasp, and like he talks to the person, and then like now everybody knows that Shinjin dies in the box, so they had to kill everybody that was up there with him except for his brother.
yeah.
And so yeah, they have to get. Well, they don't have to. His brother doesn't want to pretend to, even though he's the double, he doesn't want to pretend to be Shinjin because he doesn't want to have to lie to his men. So he wants to get this thief to lie to his men because that should be natural for him.
Yeah, that's part of how he is. Yeah.
And like he's from a different like place in Japan, so he talks differently. So like, yeah, everybody's suspicious of him immediately. But then he makes some good joke, and then they're like, ah ha ha, and they just forget about it.
Yeah.
Like humor gets him past like a lot of things in this movie.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like particularly effective at his job. He's always a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Until he just starts to like lose his identity entirely. When then it's like it sort of becomes sad. It's like, oh, this guy was totally, he's lost himself in this.
There's also an interesting bit like the king dies, they put him in like this giant like vase or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the thief guy like comes around, yeah, and like this elaborate, like he has this elaborate system of silk claws that he uses to silently open it up because he thinks like gold is inside, and then he sees the dead king in there. And then everybody knows, and they're like, all right, now we got to kill these people too. It's like, no, these are the good people, we don't have to kill them. And then they like dump the king into a river. But under fog. And while these spies are also looking on, and they're trying to figure out, because they're like, oh, that's a double, that's not the real king. But then they're like, they see a bunch of other things. They're like, oh man, we don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone knows in this movie, but they don't want to believe it, or they can't.
Yeah,
it's like we can't say for sure, so we can't say. It's like suddenly we can't speak of it because we're not 100% sure. But maybe has to do with how that works.
And then Shinjin's there's some clash between Shinjin's son and the thief, because he knows the truth, and so he wants to just take over. But like, if he just takes over, like half the people that are aligned with him are just gonna leave. It's like, it's over. That's why they have to put on this ruse. Also, like time, how long time takes place in this movie is kind of weird, because like it takes place over 3 years, but you don't really get that feeling.
No, yeah, it seems to like move pretty quickly.
Was one shot that was like amazing, and like I was wondering, is this just a rear screen projection? But I don't know. Like, it looked really cool. There's like this house. It has like these 2 square windows, and the camera starts low and is like looking up, and you just see like the sky through the windows, and then the camera like comes up and kind of like looks down, and at first you see like, okay, that now we're coming down from the clouds. There's the mountain, and it comes up even higher, and you see like the sea or whatever in the background among the mountains. Is like, is that a real place? That looks so cinematic. That can't be true. So it looks like the house is just floating on water.
Well, in some of the documentaries and things I read of and saw about this movie, was actually aimed more towards an international release, an international audience.
Yeah.
And I guess there was a whole like a lot of this is the first time like special effects were used this much in a movie of his like this instead of just like cameras and like matte paintings and stuff. And a lot of it got cut out because they
Huh.
like there was a battle sequence that they were talking about that was actually like a battle sequence with thousands of people in it, and it got cut down to like 50 seconds, 60 seconds, and it was originally like a 12-minute scene because and because Kurosawa edited it too, and they were talking about it's like they were aiming for this more international audience because they were putting it like at all the film festivals and stuff, and they wanted an American distributor to pick it up. And
so like Coppola and George Lucas helped get this made. So.
Yeah, and they secured some financing, and because Kurosawa hadn't made a movie in a while, he made this one, and it was hard to find funding in Japan, but this was seen as like an international type aimed thing.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people,
I think it won like Cannes or something like that or whatever.
Yeah, it did. I mean, a lot of people saw it as like, oh, this is very Shakespearean in its in its scope and its story. But yeah, it was there is a long version of this that you can't get in America. Everyone talks about it, but it almost sounds like a myth. It's like, well, someone has to have gone to Japan and got this at some point.
It's not even on the Criterion Collection disc.
No. It's like, what is this stored on the moon somewhere? Where is this? Because you always hear about these like supposed there's a super version of this, and it's like, well, who's seen it? Oh, no one. It's like, well, no, then there isn't, unless it was buried with Kurosawa. I mean, it's like, yeah.
I heard like one of the big scenes had like 1,000 horses or whatever, and all the horses were imported from Hollywood because they have better trained horses.
Yeah. Yeah, there was and there was a lot of like Hollywood grade special effects used in this. It was very unusual, first time in a Kurosawa movie, especially like a lot of the long shots and some of the buildings like that were illuminated and stuff, and it has a very unique look to it.
Yeah,
but you can tell like this was done with the hand of a director who is like, well, there's not going to be a lot of whiz bang except for the battle scenes, but we'll have a patient scene of like a house being illuminated or something.
Yeah.
This will all be special effects, but that's how I understand special effects to be. Like, we're not going to have guys doing wire work with swords or anything. It's like, no, we do, beautiful house or something.
Yeah,
like once I do that, watch the movie, it's like, oh, I see what they're talking about.
Got the weird nightmare sequence when Shinjin breaks out of the pot. Zombie Shinjin breaks out and to fight him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that. There's like one battle sequence I have where he goes to support the Shinjin's son, and he basically just has to sit there and look stern and not cower, and then everybody would believe, yeah, it's the real Shinjin.
Yeah.
And so they win that battle. But then they go one further. and like in the midst of doing that, the thief like tries to ride Shinjin's horse, but like the horse is so volatile it only recognizes Shinjin. So of course this guy falls off the horse and like gets his arm hurt, and then like when like the concubines or whatever look at him, is like, you don't have the same scar, you're not him.
Yeah. The mole is missing or whatever. Yeah.
Well, it's like he doesn't have the scar from being shot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a part where he's like excited when he meets like the ladies. Like, all right, now we're gonna go back and have sex, right? And the one guy's like, no, you can't do that. They're gonna know.
Yeah.
Do you have a bigger or smaller penis? They're gonna know.
Are you circumcised or not? I don't think that was a question back then, but
I mean, he was about to be crucified, but not. But yeah, then they go into one more battle, and they basically gather everybody up, and just like send them to be slaughtered by a line of guns.
yeah, it seemed like more of a noble death than an actual battle where victory could be the outcome. But I think that was part of the narrative of the movie too.
Yeah. Also, like that they kick the thief out, and so the son takes the charge, but then the thief is there that day, like kind of hiding in some bushes. And like as everybody's killed, he decides to like take up a banner and like or a spear and kind of like run towards them, and he gets shot up a bunch. But then he manages to like walk back out to a river where like one of the banners is like underwater, and he tries to raise it up, and then he just dies and falls in the water.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie.
Yep.
I wish some of the banner stuff was clearer, because like there's like sometimes like one army will have multicolored and different kind of icons on their banners, but they're all the same army, and that's kind of, and maybe it was kanji that so that would make more sense if I knew that, but I didn't, so it was kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool movie.
Yeah, it's 3.5 hours long. So
Yeah, it's long, but there's a lot of like a lot of cool details to it. Like you can go
the costuming and the way this movie was shot was amazing. Like it looked really cool.
The costumes were just like on loan from a museum.
Yeah,
Like,
they were real. Those were the real thing. Well, and it just makes like feudal Japan. It's like, oh, it's like a clockwork empire. It's like nobody trusts anyone. Everyone hates anyone. Because like you were saying earlier, it's like, oh, if this guy dies, all our allies will just leave us because they won't see as a strong leader. His son is a strong leader or anything. And it's like, wow, what a horrible world. You can't trust anyone. And like, again, you have this elaborate like clockwork empire of feudal Japan where like some of the stuff makes sense and some of the stuff is like, why would they do this? It's like, oh, this is just a reinterpretation of reality. It's not like reality. Like, yeah, because some people do act irrationally and not in ways that make sense. And there's even like continuity and plot stuff where it's like, what are we doing now? Wait a minute. we just like leaped sideways.
There's a fun stuff. There's a fun stuff where like the thief has to pretend to be the king.
Yeah.
And so he has to like pretend to command everybody, although everybody's telling him what to do. It's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, he's definitely like he never like inhabits the role. He does like his personality does kind of drop away to a certain point, but there's so many people in on it that he really can't carry it through and doesn't try to either. That's the vibe I got. He's like, yeah, I'm just doing my best, but like half these people know I'm not really him, so it's like it's almost played with a sort of like hesitance and reluctance, which was like a neat twist to the character.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's weird. Like you want this guy to like succeed in the ruse because he's in such a bad spot, and then like he doesn't.
Yeah.
And this whole
and you kind of know from the beginning he's not going to.
Yeah.
He's sort of hoping like, well, yeah, the thief becomes a king. What a great story. It's like not in Japan. No. It's not going to be a great story, but he will die with like kind of an honor, kind of an honorable death. Is like I'm carrying the banner of the king I never was, and so yeah, it was a cool movie. I'm almost 2 weeks out of watching it, so I'm trying to recall things that I remembered greatly. But yeah, I mean, all the scenes and the costuming were great, and the story was good. I didn't feel like it was a crawl to watch this. It's like all the Kurosawa stuff is either visually or story interesting.
Well, you know, I feel like it's separated enough in a way that it's easy to like, okay, this is a good moment to pause and come back. It's almost like 3 episodes of a 1 hour show rather than a 3 hour movie. So
yeah. And it was interesting. This was the first one he made for like just global commercial success.
Yeah.
And how it did and didn't work, and that like you can tell it's like sort of different, but it's not. Because then after this, he made Ron, which was like it's a massive movie.
Yeah. I'll have to watch that sometime.
It's cool. It's
you've already
it
seen it?
actually
Okay.
is. Yeah, I've watched that a long time ago.
Okay.
It is actually a Shakespeare story. It really, it's like it's
okay.
not even hinting around. It's basically Macbeth, but you know, with Japanese time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he did Throne of Blood, which is just Macbeth, right?
Yeah.
But in Japan.
Yeah, but in Japan. So it's like different enough, and the touchstones are different enough that you're like, oh, I got to engage with this because I'm not familiar with some of this stuff. I want to see what could happen, versus watching another version of Macbeth, which some of those are pretty cool. But yeah, I believe Ron is actually just like he actually just says like this is just Macbeth. but with a Japanese, and there's it's also like this stuff. It touches on history, so it touches on myth and history at the same time, kind of like this. It's like, yeah, something like this happened. Probably not this dramatic or exciting, but you know, it did happen.
Mm.
So Kagemusha, check it out. A beautiful, cool-looking Kurosawa movie about medieval Japan. Yeah, I'm not sure what. I'm not. This would probably be in like the 18th century, maybe 19th century. I'm not sure when this was set.
Maybe look up the trivia. I'm pretty sure we'll probably get a date. Yeah, 1977 is not the date I'm looking for.
Yeah. Wow. Japan came a long way. They went back into feudalism after World War II.
1575 or around that.
Oh, okay. This is a little further back than I thought. Okay. Because they were using guns. I always put that in like the 17th, 18th century, but they're also using like matchlocks, which would make it earlier. So
Yeah, that's why that guy has to come up with such a complicated method to shoot his gun, because it's such an inelegant gun.
yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of set. It's so that'd be this like the same time as the Witch or something. So that's the kind of weaponry they had. So yeah, they were using more like blunderbusses or just long rifles you lit off with a match.
But yeah, but Shinjin's troops just like swords and spears and horseback. So.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there's a part where like you have these guys. They're like a bunch of guys with rifles. It seems like they're taking a castle, and I was like, is that the Sun's troops taking the castle, or are they defending the castle? And I had no idea.
Yeah, there were some confusing things with the battles in this movie where you didn't know until the camera focused in on the main characters. It's like, oh, he's acting upset, so this isn't going the way they want to. You can't tell just by watching the ebb and flow of battle, which was maybe done on purpose because battles are confusing. You know, it's like, yeah, you don't.
There's that bit in the opening. There was like a guy like covered in mud, and he's like running through all these ranks of soldiers that are all different colors and stuff. They're all waking up, and I can't even remember what that's about. It's a cool scene though.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, battles are so confusing. Like I learned, I was watching something about Ukraine, and they were talking about how all the Ukrainian tanks and the Russian tanks looked alike. And they were telling everyone, well, why don't you just put that like weird W on the tanks like the Russians have? And I found out that's a war crime if you do that. Because you know how we had the upside down A, like the A without the slash through it, and that identifies our stuff. And Desert Storm, that was more prominent. But yeah, you know, they come up with that. I forget what it's called, but yeah, like if you have the same equipment and you dress your tank out to look like the enemies, I guess that's a war crime. I just thought that was subterfuge, which I assumed was a legitimate tactic in war. But
yeah,
that could be true though, because I remember. Have you ever seen like the Nazi Shermans and stuff? Like there's weird photos of when they captured like Sherman tanks, the Germans, and they had like swastikas and eagles on them. It's like, oh yeah, they have to redress them, and they painted them gray because it's like, even though it's a captured piece of equipment, like you can't have the American regalia on it and use that to infiltrate the lines. And also
your tanks have to have a uniform.
Yeah, also because your own people will shoot you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, oh, I never thought of that. So yeah, battles are confusing, especially in this movie. It's not always the green guys versus the red guys.
It's the green and purple and black guys versus the blue and red guys.
Yeah. It can't all be as straightforward as Tenet. Battles are confusing. It's like not only are the other guys running backwards, but they're in different colored uniforms. I think the running backwards would give it away, but no.
Yeah, what if they had a traitor in their midst?
Yeah.
And they're running forward. Like, what?
What if he stumbles while running backwards because he's not really inverted? What if, yeah, did they watch the movie Looper? It's like, oh, you got some evil organization in the future that's terrorizing us because of global warming. We'll just find that guy as a kid and start loopering his ass. Like, hack his hand off, hack his jaw off. It's like all the other guys are going to see that and be like, no. But then they're like, wait, time travel doesn't work that way. It's like, oh, that's how you got around it. Okay. Because it's like if people are terrorizing you in the future and they're born now, well, just go kill them and then that problem goes away. But no, it has to be weirder than that. 'Cause
I wonder if the Oppenheimer movie he's going to make is going to have some weird time dilation thing.
I hope so. I want him to play the intro music from Raised by Wolves for the Oppenheimer movie.
This is what he did with, what was the other one where they're stranded on the beach?
Dunkirk?
Yeah, because that one's like you have 3 different stories, but they're all at different times and they have different like time compressions. That was like kind of neat, but didn't make a lot of sense at the time.
Yeah, it was. You watched it all the way through. That was a cool movie.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing with what's his name? Just forgot the director.
Oh, yeah, did the best Batman movies. Why am I blanking on him? But yeah, Neil, no.
Joel Schumacher, no.
It's a big Schumacher, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you go back to his very first movie, like he always loves to play around with like time and how the movie is assembled. Because his first movie, The Following, he because they just didn't have a budget, he built every scene. It would have specific ins and outs so that he could edit the movie together with the scenes in any order, and it would make sense eventually. So.
Oh, okay.
Not the greatest movie. I mean, Memento is a much better movie, but that with doing that, but yeah.
Yeah, Memento had a lot of cool concepts in it.
Yeah, probably Insomnia is probably his most straightforward movie.
Yeah.
But it's also like probably his least well liked. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for that, it's kind of like watching this, like the Stanley Kubrick movies. It's like, oh, I love Stanley Kubrick. You watch some of his early stuff.
Yeah,
it's just the kind of straightforward stories. It's still great acting and writing and directing, but it's like, oh, it's like a historical docudrama type thing. It's like, oh, okay, this is a little different. Everyone thinks Kubrick. They think, oh, the Clockwork Orange and Shining in 2001. It's like, no, they're not all like that.
I don't know, Andrew, where would you put Insomnia? You put that above Tenet or below Tenet? Or is Tenet even your most hated Nolan movie?
I'd say Tenet's my most hated Nolan movie. As far, I just want something that like makes any semblance of sense to me. So I mean, some people say I have to watch it again, but I'll never waste time on that movie again.
If you tell people you didn't get it the first time and you have to watch it a second time, and then you didn't like it the first time, like that's stupid. It's like, you can't ask people to do that. It's like, you got to see my movie twice or else you don't get it. It's like,
well,
you just want money. You just want my money. Fuck you.
Me and my wife like paused it like almost an hour in, and we were like, how is this movie not ending in 20 minutes? What the fuck? Like, it feels like it's been going on for like 2 hours already. What the hell's going on with this goddamn thing? And then just like, I think we watched another 30 or 35 minutes of it, and we're just like, you want to fast forward to the end of this? Because it doesn't seem to matter anymore. And we did, and it didn't matter because fuck that movie. I mean, I get it, Christopher Nolan, you're smart and you can make cool scenes that interact with each other differently and don't follow the same rigid structure of anybody else's movies. But Jesus fucking Christ, who cares? At some point, you got to make a movie that makes money. It's not just about passion projects all the time. So, I mean, I know he's definitely had a lot of movies that are passion projects, but he's definitely also had a lot of movies that make money.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the only director right now that can actually make original movies and not superhero movies. So it's like him and Tarantino, but they get to make original movies.
And Tarantino, I have no problem with because he only makes movies I can understand. He doesn't make a bunch of artistic nonsense for some reason. To prove he's the smartest man in the room.
I wouldn't say Tenet's artistic nonsense. It is nonsense, but
well,
David Lynch is artistic nonsense, but that's up for you to determine whether it's good or not.
I haven't seen enough David Lynch stuff. So.
David Lynch is not telling you to watch something twice to get it. David Lynch is like, whatever you got out of it, that's yours, man. Keep it for yourself.
Yeah, it's not my problem or my job to make you, get something out of this. It's like all up to you. Now, I've watched Tenet like 4 times, but that's because you gave me the disc, Andrew. So if I don't have to pay for something, I'll pop it in. Now, I've watched Primer over 50 times. That's a time travel movie I like. I can't tell you why I watched that movie because it looks like it was made for $5,000, but there's some really cool stuff going on in that movie. But sometimes, I don't have to understand everything and have it all explained to me. So it's like, oh, this just looks cool. It has a vibe I like. So
it's not that I have to understand everything. It's just I have to have a basic grasp of what the hell's going on during the whole movie.
What?
I mean, I kind of somewhat understood a little bit of the underlying plot in Tenet, but it was so like, oh, I think I finally got it, and then it would be totally wrong. And it's like I started from square one, and I'm still halfway through the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's convoluted. But
but
like you're saying, I mean, I don't know. The same thing with his brother in like season 2 of Westworld. It's like, which I didn't like, but it's like, okay, I know you're smarter than me. Let's now make something entertaining.
Yay, the smartest kids in the room have turned in another A project. Now can you do something the rest of us enjoy? All right, well, that's all I got, and I got to head out.
All right.
So thank you for showing up tonight, and I hope you enjoyed our discussion. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.